Welcome, this is Mr. Edstrom, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about non-Mendelian inheritance patterns, and those include incomplete dominance, codominance, and multiple alleles. Those don't quite go exactly according to those distinct two phenotype patterns that Mendel saw. The Mendelian genetics, as you're hopefully well aware at this point, has to do with two alleles, and you end up with two possible phenotypes. The combination of those alleles give you different phenotypes. The dominant allele tends to mask the recessive allele in regular old Mendelian genetics with his pea plants. In a particular species of wildcat, you either have a red or a blue phenotype. There is a red or a blue allele that corresponds with those phenotypes. There is not, however, a distinct phenotype for every genotype. If you had these two genotypes, the homozygous dominant or the heterozygous, both which would give you a red phenotype. The only way that you get a blue phenotype is if you have two recessive alleles, homozygous recessive alleles. So there's three different genotypes, but there's only two phenotypes. In incomplete dominance, there is blending going on. So the alleles would be, for me, I like to write them like this, the big R and the big B, because neither one of them are totally dominant. They both have something to do with the outcome. They are being blended, kind of like paints and lights and things like that. So if you had a red allele, I like to write that with the big R, and a blue allele, I like to write that with the big B. Homozygous big B individuals will be blue. Homozygous big R individuals would be red, and a combination, a heterozygous individual, would be the combination of those two colors, purple. So if we're talking about this particular wildcat, for instance. In northeast Kansas, there is a creature known as a wildcat, and it comes in three colors, red, blue, and purple. What would be the genotype and phenotypes of the offspring if two purple wildcats are crossed? I will ask that you pause, go ahead and try and figure that out based on what you've been told so far, and then unpause and see if you were right. The correct answer would be, if you had two purple wildcats, you would be a purple wildcat in this species if you had, for coat color, a big B and a big R. Both would give you purple. And the same thing would go here. When you crossed those possibilities for the gametes in your Punnett square, you would end up with a genotypic and phenotypic ratio of 1 blue, 2 purple, and 1 red. And here you have a distinct phenotype for every genotype. Like we said before, the homozygous dominant and a heterozygous would both give you the same phenotype in dominance and recessiveness, whereas in incomplete dominance, you have a distinct phenotype. Big B, big R is purple, big B would be blue, and big R would be red. And so these would be the genotypes and the phenotypes. So the genotypes would be blue, 2 would be purple, 1 would be red. So there's also codominance. So codominance is that both alleles end up having some input, not just being blended, but they're both there. So if you end up, or excuse me, if you start with this white bull and this, what is referred to as red, I realize it's not red, but it's kind of rust-colored brown cow, you end up with this lovely lady. Kidding. You end up with this result of a roan. It's called R-O-A-N. It's a roan where both the red-brown color are showing up and the white color are showing up. It's not a blend, it's not tan, but both of them are being expressed. So both alleles are being expressed, it's not blended, and codominance is what you would end up with if you started with, like we just saw, a red cow and a white bull. You would end up with all roan individuals as the offspring. it would be 100% probability that you get a roan, a combination of the red and the white fur in the cow, in the hairs of the cow. Multiple alleles. An example that we're going to be using a lot has to do with blood type, and multiple alleles is just what it sounds. There's more than just the R for red or the B for blue. There could be a combination of an A, a B, and an O, which there are in blood type, that code for particular proteins that are found on the outside of the red blood cells. We refer to those as antigens. So there's multiple alleles, the A, B, and the O, and they kind of do a couple of things. There's multiple alleles. Two of them are codominant to one another. The A and the B proteins, if they're both present as AB genotype, you will have AB blood. Both A and B proteins will be expressed on the outside of the red blood cell. However, it turns out that there's also some dominance and recessiveness going on, whereas if you had an A allele and an O allele in the genotype, both would be not equal. The A would be dominant over the O, as would the B be dominant over the O if that was expressed. And so basically what you see are these proteins on the outside are the A proteins, the A antigen. These are the B proteins, and these would be the A and the B. Both are being expressed, and if you have blood type O, you have no antigens on the outside, but it's due to a particular gene. The way you get those different blood types are kind of what I suggested earlier, is if you can have A blood if you have an A allele along with an A allele in your genotype, or you could get A blood when the A allele is dominant over the O allele. But both these could be the genotype, both of which would result in A blood. B blood is very similar. You could either have B allele and B allele in the genotype, or BO, which is also embarrassing. If you had A B blood, that's because they are codominant. You had an A allele and a B allele in your genotype, and that's how you end up with A B blood. O blood is due to having both O alleles in your genotype. Again, if you had any combination of A and O or B and O, you would not have O blood because those are dominant over the O allele. And so it turns out here are a couple of different combinations that you could have. So if somebody was to say that you had AB blood here, this would be due to the A and the B allele. Okay, here this individual would just be A blood because they have this A allele along with the O allele, which is recessive to the A allele, so they have A blood. And you could do that cross and you would get these results. So you could also have A blood here and B blood here in these different situations with this genotype, the B and the O allele, and the A and the O allele. This also could have been A blood with an A allele and an A allele, but you would result in different probabilities. But these would be a couple of examples for A and B and O alleles as multiple alleles. So good luck on your homework, and please let me know if there are any questions for tomorrow in class.